Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Marvin Byrd Show, and I'm your host, Dr. Marvin Byrd. I just found out not too long ago that we have teachers, fellow teachers, our brothers and sisters in Reading, Pennsylvania. They're teaching without pay for the first month. I haven't looked into it a whole lot, but from what I've gathered, is there's an issue with the contract, and they don't have a contract, and the union is trying to work that out. But the teachers are working without they're not getting paid, and that is entirely unacceptable. And I can, I'm sure you can only imagine. I can only imagine what that is like. I remember, just like that first paycheck. I really counted on that first paycheck of the school year because of the way the pay schedule fell. I really needed that first paycheck of the school year, and my heart goes out to the teachers in Reading. And so, God bless them. They decided that they're going to teach. They're going to do their job. They're going to continue the mission, and they're going to take care of those kids. But they're not getting their salary. And I know that there's been a lot of talk. You've probably been inundated with the hashtag clear the list, clear this list. But I can, with these lists from these teachers, there's some of the backstory. Some of the backstory is that they they're not receiving a paycheck. And you all know that as teachers, we are going to have to reach into our pockets to take care of things that we need for our classroom. And this is a little bit more challenging for the teachers in Reading, Pennsylvania at this time, because, like I said, they're not getting a paycheck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the information, the link to the lists for these teachers in this school district, the Reading, Pennsylvania Reading School District. And I will put this and I'll pin this to the top of the Facebook page. And you can get there by going to Facebook/Marvin Byrd EDU. And I'll put that information on there so you can get to it. And with these lists, it's pretty amazing. Whatever little bit you can do, it goes a long way. And the teachers, they really, really do appreciate it. I mean, you can see the smiling faces of the teachers all over Twitter, because when you have a whole lot of people chipping in, it really goes a long way towards actually clearing those lists. So I would encourage you to consider taking care of those teachers in Reading, Pennsylvania, because once again, they're not receiving a paycheck for the first month, and hopefully that situation gets taken care of very quickly, so those teachers can get their paycheck, because they have families to take care of and they have needs as well. So today we are going to talk about motivation. We're going to talk about motivation, one of the burning questions in education, especially with people who are just new to education. One of those burning questions is, how do you motivate the unmotivated student? It almost seems like an impossible challenge at times with the way students put up that resistance, and they resist your efforts to try to get them to work. But we're going to I guarantee you, we're going to take an interesting look at motivation. We're not only going to look at motivation, but we're going to look at the science of motivation. The science of motivation. With that, let's begin. I love talking about the Wright brothers. Whenever I talk with students, I like to use their story as a way of motivation. When the Wright brothers were young boys, their father gave them a gift, a toy helicopter, and the boys, they were fascinated by this helicopter and the fact that it could fly in the air. And it was from that moment on, when they were little boys, they had this dream, they had this vision that they never let go. They never released that vision, that dream. And so there were going to be times throughout their lives when they realized, oh, this is going to be very difficult, or this is going to cost a lot of money, and they didn't have the money to do it. And so they had to start a bike shop. And then there was going to be knowledge that they didn't have. And so they were going to have to find people to teach them. So there were many obstacles in their way, and they were able to manage and overcome those obstacles until that one windy day in North Carolina, they saw their dream take off and soar through the air. I can give that pep talk in my sleep. But you know what? And that story about the Wright brothers, it is motivational. It's motivational, but the most important thing to take out of that story is, what was their motivation and why did it work so well? That is the question to ask. What was their motivation and why did it work so well? Because, I've been really perplexed, over the years, especially early on in my teaching career, when I would give students, I'd give them my best pep talk. I really give them a nice talk, and things would turn around. They give me some, they'd react to it, and I'd get some positive action, but then eventually they would go back to their old ways, those old habits. It only worked for a little while. And that was frustrating, because I realized that if that student continued to make those poor decisions, life was going to be difficult for that student, because the quality of your life depends on the decisions, the quality of the decisions that you make. And that word quality is important. We're going to talk about that later. So the question with the Wright brothers, they have a motivational story, but the question, the thing to focus on is, what was their motivation and why did it work so well? Because you see, they got the idea of conquering flight as they were boys. But all throughout their teenage years, their adult years, there were all these obstacles, all these reasons and excuses to quit. But they never did. Think about your students. Think about your students. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if you could help them be able to fuel their own passion to succeed? Wouldn't it be nice if your students were able to reflect and analyze themselves, where they are in terms of their motivation and what's fueling them, and make necessary adjustments so that they can put fuel on the fire and they can regulate themselves to make good decisions and pursue excellence? Wouldn't it be nice? So in this episode, I'm going to be referencing Susan Fowler. She is an author and she's an influencer in the area of motivation, and she is a highly sought after speaker and consultant with many successful businesses. You can find her work in Fast Company, Forbes, the Harvard Business Review, and many, many other publications. So she's an expert in this field. Motivation is something that is very, very important to us as leaders in the classroom. You see, as leaders, we've got to challenge ourselves and equip ourselves with tools in order to lead our students. And motivation, that's one of the things that you're going to have to do in order to help push students along and help influence them to make good decisions, to reach for excellence. So Susan Fowler, she describes motivation as the energy to act. I love that definition of motivation. It is energy. And sometimes we all can get low on motivation. Sometimes, there are times when we don't feel like getting out of the bed. Sometimes there are times when we don't feel like going to work. There are times when we don't feel like going to the gym. So motivation, according to Susan Fowler, is energy to act. Energy to act. And stories and quotes, they fill us up for a little while. They give us maybe a quick little burst of energy because it piques our interest. It speaks to us. It changes the way we think. It gives us that aha moments. But one thing we know about energy is that energy can be depleted. Energy can be depleted. It's like filling up the tank it's like filling up a tank in a car that runs on gas. See, I have to qualify that now because we have Tesla out there. So with that gas tank, it's a matter of how much fuel did you put in the car? And where are you going? How far are you going? What's the task? What's the job that needs to be done? So this will blow your mind right here. She also said it's the quality of your motivation that determines the quality of your energy. Again, it's the quality of your motivation that determines the quality of your energy. To frame this thought, what she does is she talks about how if someone is low on energy in the morning, if they eat some junk food, some sugary food, donuts, what have you, that'll give them they'll get that nice little spike. They'll get that spike of energy. But when they come down, when they crash, it's going that person is going to end up with very, very little energy. They'll end up with less energy than when they began, than when they ate the sugary fast food snacks. So that's not, so that energy is not quality energy. So instead, it's better to eat a balanced breakfast, maybe some leafy greens, maybe some egg white omelet, a modest amount of fruit juice. You know what I'm saying? There's something that's balanced, something that's overall a healthy meal. And that energy and the energy that you get from that balanced breakfast is quality energy, and that's going to carry you further. And as I was looking at some of her research and listening to her, I could see students throughout all of this, because when we talk about the quality of energy, I've seen people over the time, and yes, me too. I'll give students some energy in the form of we call chewing out. Okay. Yes. Chewing kids out. I taught high school, by the way. Okay. So just so you know, with high school, you can speak a little bit more plainly with students, and you can let them feel where you're coming from. And it always, when I was frustrated with kids, they knew that it was coming from a place that I care about you. And so when I had those passionate conversations with Johnny, because he's been constantly making bad decisions, I want him to make better decisions. Now, these kinds of pep talks, I know that they were not quality energy. They weren't quality energy, because what I was communicating to Johnny was that I'm frustrated. I'm angry because I can't seem to get through to you about the importance of making good decisions. And I want you to make good decisions. And so what Johnny was and the message that Johnny was getting was that, oh, Dr. Byrd, he must not be in the mood today. He's having one of those days. Let me just tiptoe around Dr. Byrd and just stay out of his way. I don't want that. That's not the message that I wanted to send to Johnny. I want Johnny to understand that he has a vision of success that he needs to chase. And him getting his education, that's part of that vision of success. I am so happy and I am so humble that you are here listening to this episode of the Marvin Byrd Show. I have a question for you. I have a request of you. If you shop at Amazon, you can give back to this show. Yes, you can. Instead of going to Amazon.com, if you instead go to marvinbyrd.com/Amazon, what you will find is you will find a link to Amazon. There'll be a big picture that says Amazon. If you click that link, it'll take you to Amazon, the same place that you were originally going to go. And anything that you purchase from Amazon, you get a chance to kick a commission here to Marvin Byrd LLC. Now, when you do this, that is a way of saying thank you. That's a way of supporting the work and supporting the message here that teachers are leaders. So I thank all of you who have been doing that. I appreciate it and it means a lot. And if you haven't done so, I encourage you to think about doing that. And so I thank you for your consideration. Again, thank you for those of you who are doing it. Again, that's marvinbyrd.com/Amazon. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the show. So if we're going to motivate students, we need to give them quality energy. Motivation is energy to act. It's energy to act. It's the quality of your motivation that determines the quality of your energy. Ms. Fowler also tells us that there are 3 things that everyone needs in order for that energy to be sustained. This is very, very important. If we're going to get through those students, if we're going to give them quality energy, if we're going to really motivate them, you got to have these 3 things. They begin with a C. I love that. I love that. You know how much I like that. So first one is choice. Students have to have choice. Second, connection. And third, competence. Choice, connection, competence. All 3 of those have to be in play if we're going to give students the energy to act. Now, let me speak on something that may be going through your mind. Maybe it's the back of your mind, or maybe you're yelling out loud as I'm talking about teachers motivating students. Maybe you're yelling and you're maybe a little bit frustrated because ideally students should enter your class understanding the importance of an education. And that is the ideal situation. That's actually how it's supposed to work, right? The parents and the teachers and the school district, they're all partners and they should be working together and they all have jobs to do. So yes, students should enter school on fire with the understanding that their education is very important, and the things that are done in school, those things are supported at home, and there's a nice working relationship between parents and teachers, and the students are covered, and they fully understand what's expected of them, and they make good decisions and they do those things. But you and I know that that's not always the case for a number of reasons. And you know what? A lot of those reasons are out of our control. And so as leaders, we have to be willing to act. We have to be willing to find solutions. And you know what? Administration, they're trying, but they also need help. And that's where this teachers are leaders thing, that's where that all came from, is because I realized that as a teacher, my administrators, they needed help. They didn't have the answer. And you know what? That's okay. Because as teachers, we went to school. We understand how to, if we are hungry, we know how to go and get food and eat. Same is true when it comes to tools to be successful in the classroom. If we need to better ourselves in terms of our leadership in the classroom, then we have to go find something to help us. If we need some professional development in an area that our school isn't really emphasizing, then you know what? You can easily jump on the internet and find some information, or you can easily jump on Twitter and interact with thousands of educators all around the world regarding the subject that you're interested in. And that's why I want to commend you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. So in many instances, it's going to be on you. It falls on your shoulders. Sure, certainly, it's not ideal, but this is what it is. Okay, so I wanted to address that because that's kind of the elephant in the room regarding motivation. But here's the thing, and this should make you very, very happy. Motivation is a skill. It's a skill. It's a skill in which we as leaders, we can improve as long as we pay close attention to those 3 C's. That's choice, connection, and competence. Let's break those down. So the first C is choice. And when we talk about motivation, it's closely aligned with engagement. And I want to remind you that a couple weeks ago, I did a podcast episode about engagement and why some kids don't engage. And it's important to understand that engagement is a choice. It's a choice that students make. And I can tie that episode into this episode because it relates to the motivation. A motivation. Engagement is a choice. You see, some students don't have the energy to engage. Some students don't have the energy to engage. Energy/motivation. Some students don't have that necessary motivation in order to engage. Engagement is a choice. And quite frankly, some students choose not to engage because they don't have the energy. But because we're looking at the science of motivation, we're going to equip ourselves with some tools so that we can help students by giving them that energy, giving them that motivation, that quality energy to succeed. So choice is important. Choice is very important. You know, when we spend so much time telling students what they can't do, then those are the things that they're going to want to do. That's simple psychology. That's simple child psychology. We tell them, don't you go in there. The only thing that they're going to be thinking of is doing the opposite of what you told them. And children, as they get older, depending on the situation they grew up in, they don't necessarily do well with authority. They don't necessarily do well with being told what to do. Now, please don't get me wrong. Like we're not giving away our authority here. But if you're familiar with Love and Logic, I'm a big fan of Love and Logic because Love and Logic, it emphasizes one's ability to make decisions. Emphasizes ability to make decisions. And when I really became a student of love and logic, and in my classroom, what I would tell students is I would say, you could do anything you want to do in this classroom as long as it doesn't cause a problem. And it's really interesting because that was when I made that statement. I decided to myself that I'm going to try an experiment here. I'm going to try an experiment. I want to go all in with love and logic. And so I came up with that statement. You can do anything you want to in this classroom as long as it doesn't cause a problem. And immediately at that point, what I was doing, I could tell what was happening with my students. Like those wheels were turning because it was different. It was so different. It wasn't that rigid system. Like you've got three bathroom passes. You got to have 2 feet in the door, or you're gonna be marked tardy. It wasn't that rigid system. It gave them the opportunity to make a choice, to make a decision. So empowering students to make a choice is something that Susan Fowler is telling us is a really, really good thing to do. One way, if you want to get into an argument with a student really quick, you want to get into a nice verbal back and forth with them really quick, try telling them what to do. Telling them what to do. And there are a number of ways you can accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. For example, you want the students to have a seat. You can make a simple statement as, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on page 26, and I'm thinking I want to read about 5 pages popcorn style. So that's just one example of how you can infuse choice into your classroom. And what it does, it releases a burden off of the students. I know it's kind of it may be hard to believe, but it releases that burden off the student because they realize that they are empowered. They're empowered to make a choice. And when they make a bad choice, you as a leader, you can point to the choice and not the student, of course. So here's another one that I would use when I was in the classroom. I would preface things when I was trying to get them to make a decision, a good decision that I wanted them to make. I would preface it with students who. And here's an example. Students who fully complete their study guide tend to do better on the test. Again, students who fully complete their study guide tend to do better on the test. Now, instead of me fussing and yelling at students about their study guides, like, you better do your study guide, No. I put the ball in their court. I put the power in their hands. They get to make the decision. Students who fully complete their study guide tend to do well on the test. And so it's all on them. They get to make the decision. Susan Fowler stated that when people recognize they have a choice, they feel empowered to make the right choice. And then once they've made the right choice, then you have an opportunity to love on them, to praise them. And you know what happens? That feels good. They like that feeling. And because they like that feeling, they want to feel that again. That's quality energy, choice. Next up is connection. Students need connection if they're going to have that quality energy that's going to carry them through. And there are 2 ways to look at connection. Number one, relationships. So obviously this, we talk about this a lot. It's widely accepted in education. Relationships matter. Students need these connections in school. They need them. And it's important to make sure that you're putting in this energy to make sure that you're connecting with students. Here's the other way that you need to look at connection. But here's the other way we look at connection in terms of motivating students and giving them that quality energy according to Susan Fowler's research. The learning has to be meaningful. The learning has to be meaningful. Oftentimes, when students came into my classroom, they would ask me, or they would say, I'm not good at social studies. I've never been good at social studies. Or they'll ask me questions like, why do we have to learn this? How's this going to help me? And it's crazy because I would ask the same question about social studies, the very subject that I ended up teaching. And I would have these kinds of moments in other classes that I didn't like, that I struggled in. I just didn't understand it. And what we're talking about when we talk about making that connection, we're talking about the why. The why. Why are we doing this? What is the meaning? You see, it's the ultimate goal that encourages students to really connect to the school itself, that connect to the why. Why do we go to school? What is that overall goal? And that's why with vision chasers, I'm all about teaching kids to discover their vision of success and understand how their education helps them to get there. Because if you don't have that, then you don't have that connection. Then you're going to be constantly asking, when you're frustrated, when you're struggling in a math class, you're going to be asking yourself, why am I in this class? I'm definitely not going to choose a job where I need math because I don't like it. And there's not that connection because I don't know what my vision of success is. And so I don't know how math fits into me reaching that vision of success. It's in the why. Why do I have to go to school? Why do I have to learn math, social studies, science, ELA? Why? What is the reason? What's the purpose for me sitting in this classroom, for me here struggling to understand this, for me having to act up because I don't want to be called out and look foolish in front of the class? Why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to follow these rules? This is frustrating. That's a student who doesn't have that connection. They don't have that connection. But when that why is discovered, and I've seen this, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen this, helping students determine that vision of success. When that why is discovered, then they have that realization, and then they start exercising their right to choose, to make a good decision versus a bad decision, because they've got more energy now. That's the difference between the Wright brothers' story being motivational and what actually motivated the Wright brothers. They had a why, they understood it, and they were so connected to it. I've got another special offer for you, the listeners of the Marvin Byrd Show, courtesy of Rodan and Fields. They've got multiple products such as the microdermabrasion paste that will leave your skin feeling silky smooth. And then you follow that up with the active hydration serum that will put the moisture back into your face and hydrate your skin, making it feel so soft and refreshing your overall look. And then they also have these multi-step regimens based on a test that clients take before they even try a product to determine what regimen is best for them. So these products aren't just shotgunned out there. The consultants take their time to learn about you, to learn about your skin and what goals that you have in order to take care of your skin. So I encourage you to contact the consultant to find out more. And then for you, just mention the show in the email and you'll get a 25% discount on your first order. So you can email this consultant, email her and say, hey, tell me more about your products. Tell me more about Rodan and Fields products. I'm curious. You're not going to be pressured into buying anything. She can take your information and give you a link so you can take a test, and she can submit to you what may be best for you and your skin. That's all. So you can reach the consultant by emailing her, and her email address is tnicholet@yahoo.com. Again, email her at tnicholet@yahoo.com. All right, let's get back to the show. Versus when you tell someone the story, sure, it may give them a little some energy just for a little while. But when you understand that why, when students understand that why, their decisions have a greater meaning because of the learning that takes place along the way. People learn more when they do it because they want to do it, as opposed to being told to do it, as opposed to being mandated. There's learning that takes place along the way. And let me mention this, as leaders, what we have to do, because we're in the classroom with those kids, we have to make sure that we're kind of shielding our students from the politics of these standardized tests. We need these, we do need some standardized testing. That's good to determine where we're going, the progress that we've made. It's good. We need standardized tests, but there's some politics that's involved as well. And because we're in the classroom, we have to protect students from that. Because there are times when I just wonder if the standardized testing, if that's overshadowing what we do on a daily basis. Because there are multiple opportunities throughout the school year to celebrate. Like even within a 90-minute period, there are multiple opportunities to celebrate. Students are doing things. They're doing great things in those classes within that time. And so we shouldn't wait until we get these standardized test scores in order to really celebrate, simply because the public is seeing them. Students are doing great things each and every day, each and every minute of every school day. They're doing great things. And so it's important that we make sure, because Susan Fowler, she talks about, people, they tend not to be motivated because they're held accountable for metrics that have no meaning. Again, I think that point is very important. People, they lose motivation. They don't have the energy they need because they're being held accountable for metrics that have no meaning.